Check, check, check. Welcome, welcome to another edition of Should My Money Be Scared with Agent Cory Banks and Realtor 007. And this program, we talk about different aspects of real estate and how COVID-19 has affected those different aspects of real estate. If if you've missed other episodes before, please go to my YouTube channel, which is Agent Cory Banks, and check out any past episodes that you may have missed. And also, if you're looking for the contact information of any one of the past guests, please get in contact with me. Um, 1 second. So far, we've discussed many different aspects of real estate and how COVID-19 has been affected, and the different those different aspects of real estate. Can't seem to talk today, having a being all tongue tied, but it happens, right? But normally we talk. Normally we're talking about the Baltimore market and in the Maryland market, and today I wanted to get into some different markets, and today we have my man Vernon, who is a part of the DC market, and he's doing rehabs in DC. He's also a DC agent, things like that. And we're just gonna sit and discuss some of the ways that COVID-19 has affected the DC market, and also find out what he's doing as well. So without further ado, bring my man Vernon.
Hey, what's happening?
What's happening, Vernon? How you feel?
I'm good, man. Good. Can't complain. Glad to be chosen to be on your show.
Well, you're working hard. You're making it happen. I said, why not?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, give me 1 second. All right. You know, I'm a one man show, and
Okay.
we were talking before, and I'm like, I'm having all these things happening at one time, so I have to like fix it on the fly, right? now, now, with that being said, tell tell the people about yourself. Tell them who
Cool.
you are, what
Cool.
you do.
Yeah. So again, my name is Vernon Bond. I grew up in the Washington D.C. area. I grew up in Fort Washington, a city right outside of D.C. in Maryland, Prince George's County. Um, I come from a pretty stable home. Both my parents worked. Um, Two older sisters, so I'm the baby. We all kind of went our separate ways in a professional standpoint, but we're all very close. And I'm the only one that actually went into real estate. So, I went to college, Howard University, studied business. And right after I graduated, my brother-in-law mentioned that, I should get into, real estate. I should at least look into it. And I had never had anybody before mention real estate to me. Nobody in my family was in real estate other than the house my parents bought that I grew up in, but that's about it. So, I've always been a little hustler, growing up, always, I was the kid when schools were closed on snow days, I was shoveling snow while everybody's playing Xbox,
That's a lost art, man.
yeah, yeah. had my own little lawn cutting business when I was a kid, all that.
I
Yeah.
I remember when we were younger, and used to be a group of us, and it
Uh-huh.
was snow. We have our shovels on our shoulder, and we'll go out shoveling snow. We made like every time it snowed, we made like $100 or more dollars. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's a lost art.
Yeah, man. I caught the flu one time because I was shoveling this guy's his driveway, and it was so much snow. I was probably like 12 years old, and it was so much snow I couldn't shovel the whole thing by myself. But I wanted the money, and I didn't
Right.
stop. And my dad came and picked me up and was like, "Man, you're gonna die out here." So I actually ended up getting sick, but but that just shows you how much I was trying to hustle when I was a kid.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, you know, when I was about 22 years old, I was, playing around on Zillow, and I was, looking at homes, and I can't remember where I was looking at homes at, but I was looking at homes and seeing houses that were for sale for 100,000,
Hmm.
and maybe half a mile away, houses were selling for 200,000, and I'm like, how could that be? I'm like, so you just got to fix a house up and sell it, and you make money?
And
It
that's at
sounded too
22.
easy.
That was at 22, right?
Yeah, that was at 22, and it took me about 3 years to really, mature enough so that I could take this business seriously. But I was also working. I had a corporate job at that time, so I was, working very hard with that, stressing me out, and I just was looking for, a business that I could, invest in, that I could quit my 9 to 5, and fortunately, I was able to do that by 27.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Um, that's how you got into real estate. Now, were you always in the DC market, or did you start off in a different market at first?
No, I was always in the DC market. So I first actually, well, DC, Prince George's County, Montgomery County area.
Hmm.
I kind of bulked that whole area as one because that's where I grew up.
Right.
But yeah, that's where I started. I first actually started trying to wholesale when I was like 24, around that age, and I was very bad at it. It was very unsuccessful. But I had a a very demanding 9 to 5 job that took up so much of my mental capacity. I really wasn't able to hustle the way I wanted to. And then also my job relocated me to West Virginia for a year, so that kind of deflated my momentum once I got into real estate.
Now, see, that makes me ask the question as well because a lot of I have a lot of people that come to me and they ask, well, how can I start investing? And most of the time is mainly wholesaling is the first thing that they
Hmm.
come with. Now
Yep.
I ask questions because wholesale may not be the best start. You
Yeah.
know, you may be a little further along and didn't know. But what made you bad at wholesale?
Well, one, I didn't really have the guidance. And not that you need a mentor, it definitely helps, but I really didn't have anybody around me in real estate. I really didn't. And I was in West Virginia when I really tried to, when I really just started getting into real estate. So imagine trying to do business in DC, 6 hours away,
Mhm.
and having no guidance, no
Right.
experience, and all. It's very difficult. So I was just end up, cold calling realtors, cold calling just other real estate professionals so that I can learn, soak the game up. But really, what held me back was one, the distance, and I would come back to DC every 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and spend a week here and then go back to West Virginia. But um, you know, I say also I was thinking very narrow. I was
Right.
thinking very narrow with my strategy. For me, wholesaling, for all I knew was you got to buy something at 40 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar,
Mhm.
and sell it at 60 cents on the dollar to make any money. So if you don't get a deal, you know, if you don't get a deal that low, then there's nothing you can do with it. And that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of creative ways that you can structure a deal. Actually, the first deal I ever had, I thought wasn't a deal, but it actually was a deal. I just didn't know it. Um,
Right.
yeah. So if I had ended up buying that property and doing something maybe like subject to, or structured a deal with the seller to where I just paid them the money that they needed, I could have took over the property, and today that property is worth more than twice than what he was trying to sell it for.
Right.
So
And and I'm glad you said that. But really quickly, if you're just joining the program, this is Agent Cory Banks, Realtor 007 with Should My Money Be Scared? And today we're speaking to Vernon Bond, and we're talking about the DC market. Right now, we're just kind of going over how he got started, and 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 he touched upon wholesale. And I'm glad you did because of the fact that one thing that you said is it may be a deal. It was a deal, but you didn't know it.
yeah,
And that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, the different ways to structure a deal, where most people are looking at it as a wholesale deal, a rehab deal, or a buy and hold. Of course, if you're a real estate agent, I'm going to list it. But there's other ways to take down the deal as well, understanding your numbers.
yeah.
When My question to that, when did you find that out? When did you realize that there were other strategies that you can employ in order to get some of these deals done?
Well, not for a long time later. Just doing my own research, and then also running into or eventually meeting Charles Blair, and I learn through him the
Shout
different
out the mad
strategies.
scientist.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to him. And YouTube as well, just by eventually evolving, by consuming my life with real estate. Because when I started off, again, I was working a 9 to 5, and I was only doing real estate outside of those hours. And when you really consume yourself, or consume yourself around real estate 24/7, then you are exposed to other people that you weren't previously exposed to, ideas that you previously weren't exposed to,
Right.
and just maybe even self-generated ideas, just by continuing to learn and putting the pieces together, and connecting the dots that you didn't think were correlated before you really started getting that involved in it.
Well, just like anything else, how does it go if you surround yourself with four people doing something? You're gonna be the fifth person to do it. So
Hmm.
I know I messed that up, but you get the gist of what I'm saying.
I got your point.
You know what I'm saying? And again, yeah, if you guys have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the comment section, and I can make sure I get the last for you. With all that being said, let's get into it.
Cool.
Right? You're in the you're in the DC market.
Yep.
You're rehabbing in DC, but you've also rehabbed in the Baltimore market as well, correct?
Yep.
Now, my first question is there a difference in the market? You see a difference in the market?
Most definitely. DC is very competitive, just like Baltimore is very competitive too. But DC has a significant lower amount of inventory than Baltimore and Maryland as well. The values also have risen, grown dramatically.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there were neighborhoods that I didn't drive to. Uh, we locked our doors when we drove through there.
But
Even
wait, real quick. I'm sorry, Frank. Is that better? First of all, thanks, Frank. I got a message. They couldn't hear me. So can you guys hear me now? If you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Um, well, I know you can hear me. I'm talking about them. But continue.
Yeah, so the DC market has grown dramatically over the last 20 years. I mean, houses 1,500 square feet, depending on where they are in the city, can go for anywhere from 400,000 up to 1.4 million, depending on where it is in the city. Uh,
Right.
so that you have that aspect of it in DC that you don't necessarily have in Baltimore in regards to values. And
Hmm.
I think that's why a lot of the negative stereotype of Baltimore with a lot of the vacant houses is the cost to renovate a lot of those homes. You wouldn't get your money back on the sale because the values aren't there in certain neighborhoods.
Right.
Um, and I look at Baltimore as a very strong rental market. If you want to get into an area where you can buy something for 100K, rent it out for 1,400, 1,500 a month, and you can get a pretty decent return on your money. Obviously, if you buy a decent property and you manage it well, but you can't necessarily get that in DC. You're not going to find a house for 100,000 in DC, and if you do find it, you're going to have competition from everybody.
Look, uh, let me get this out first, because DC is a whole different animal,
Yeah, it is.
right?
It is.
And we were talking about this. When did we come over? Was that last Thursday?
Yeah,
There was
Thursday.
sometime last week.
Yeah.
So, and we were talking about that because the house that you're about to put on the market is like 1,088 square feet,
Yeah,
right?
it's about 1,600 total because it's not including the basement. But
Okay, so
yeah.
let's say we included the basement, right?
Uh-huh.
So let's say 1,600 square feet, all right?
Yep.
And you're saying the average townhome in uh in Baltimore is anywhere between 1,200 to 1,800 square feet, right? So now we're talking about 1,600 square feet, and that's right in the middle of the two.
Yeah.
The average townhome, the average row home or townhome in Baltimore, you're looking at a value anywhere between maybe 120 lower income neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
and up to maybe one like I sold one for 196. So let's say 200,000.
Yeah.
Right, that's the range.
Mm-hmm.
This 1,600, that's between 1,200 1,800 square feet, right?
Yep.
This 1,600 square foot property that you're selling in DC is gonna go on the market for what?
So actually, it's on the market for 630,000.
630,000.
Yep. It's actually the cheapest house on the block.
That was my next question.
Cheapest house on the block.
Because I think across the street from you sold for like 650,000, right?
660 at the end of the block. Across the street is a house listed for 650.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so whole different animal. And then at that, you're saying that the inventory is even lower in DC than it is in Baltimore, even though the prices are like super high.
Yep. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why the prices are driven so high, because of the lack of inventory and the amount of people that have just moved to DC in the last 10, 15 years. That's grown dramatically as well. So,
well, and which leads me to one of my next questions is, like, what's the average days on the market in DC?
It really depends on where you are, and it depends on what kind of product you put out there.
Right.
I'll probably say anywhere from maybe 14 to maybe 20, 21, 22 days, depending on the product that's out there, if it's priced right.
Right.
I think the longest I've had a house on the market is maybe close to 40 days, and it didn't have parking. That's
still not bad though.
That's not bad. No, that's the longest I've had. And the shortest, actually my first flip, we got a contract in 6 hours. My first flip. Man, we knocked it out the park. I got spoiled on that deal. I thought every deal was gonna be like that, but it wasn't.
Look, I understand. I've had those, and that's the beauty of real estate. No two deals are the same.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're saying anywhere between, you said about 20 days on market on average in DC.
Yep.
So I mean, and that's still not bad. What would you say the average? Let me see if you in your neighborhood, because I know that on that block you're saying 630, but on average, what would you say in that area? What is the average sales price?
In all of DC, the average is about 450 to 475. The average sale price.
Right.
And that's including, the lower income areas, or the areas that had just started getting developed over the last five years.
Mm-hmm.
The entry level price point homes, and that considers that, and then also considers the higher value homes those sell for about 800. The average premium home sells for about 800,000 in a nice neighborhood.
And the one that you're listing for 630, but in pre-rehab condition, before you started the rehab, how much did you purchase?
We paid $345 for that.
$345.
Yeah.
Still nowhere near with the market price.
No, and it was in rough shape. It was definitely a full gut.
And it was a gut at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the dude that sold it to me, he came up because he paid when he bought it, he paid like $150, I believe. Yeah, he almost netted 200. He paid $150 for it about 10 years ago.
Okay. And again, if you're just joining, this is Agent Cory Banks, Realtor 007, and you're watching Should My Money Be Scared? In today's episode, we have my man Vernon Bond, who is a DC rehabber, and we're just talking about the DC market and the differences between DC and Baltimore and how COVID-19 has affected the DC market as well. Now, since you did bring up wholesaling before, right?
Yep.
Average, when you're talking about average wholesale fee in the Baltimore area, you're saying anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 on average, right?
Okay.
Of course, depending on the deal, all that good stuff. In DC, what would you say the average wholesale fee is?
Probably anywhere from 40 to 60K.
40 to 60K.
Yep.
Okay. So for all you people, all you investors who are looking at Baltimore, you may want to look at DC too.
Yeah, and it's a lot more competitive in this market too. So just to keep that in mind. A lot less inventory, a lot more competitive. A lot of homeowners are, just like any area, they think
Right.
they got more than they really do. But
Yeah.
it's the same anywhere.
But in DC as well, there's a lot of, you're doing a lot of conversions
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
right?
A lot. DC is a very condo friendly
Mm-hmm.
city. A lot of condo conversions that have been going on, and that's actually a good point. That's what allows a lot of wholesalers to actually make bigger spreads on deals, because you could take a house that's just a traditional row home, and if it's zoned for 2 units, you
Mm-hmm.
can turn around and sell it to a developer for more than what you normally would wholesale it to a regular, rehabber, because that developer is going to make substantially more on that deal because they're going to convert it.
Right.
Yeah, so that is a big play in DC.
Okay. Now, what about the process? Because you've done rehabs in Baltimore, but you're also doing rehabs in DC. What is the process, and is that process different from between DC and Baltimore?
Uh, I think the formula is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way you execute it may be a little different.
Explain.
So in DC, you got to obviously pull your permits just like you would anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot more strict, in my opinion, in DC. They have a task force that goes out looking for illegal construction. Now,
Wow.
fortunately, I've never had, any negative brush-ins with the DCRAs, our zoning department.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they have a task force. They go out looking for legal construction, and they'll
Wow.
stop work order on your property, no question, no problem. And it's $4,000.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's $4,000 just to get the stop work order removed, and you got to fix whatever you did wrong anyway. So yeah, it's no joke. And then it's a very people friendly city, very people friendly, because the city put the people first.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not put you first, but they'll put people first. So your neighbors, man, they could call city on you. And, I had neighbors call city on me, and I had all my permits, did everything within code. And the city kept sending people out at my property harassing me just because the neighbor, she had a gripe with me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the city is very strict on zoning, permitting, and things like that. Baltimore, obviously, you definitely need to pull your permits, do all that stuff above board. Well, but I don't see that they're as strict. I don't have as much harassment from the zoning department from Baltimore as much as I do in DC. And
Yeah.
it's from what I know, it's the penalties aren't as bad. I think it's like what, $1,000 or $2,000 for a stop work order in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So it's not as drastic or severe. Also, when it comes to doing remodeling, my first flip in Baltimore, I tried to do a DC flip in Baltimore, and the culture is different in Baltimore. Things matter more to a Baltimore buyer than they do to a DC buyer, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So rooftop deck is very popular in Baltimore.
Right.
Exposed brick is very popular in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, we don't really see that often in DC. We don't really have rooftop decks. Exposed brick, you may see exposed brick in a house, but you're not going to see it on average. And a lot of things matter to Baltimore buyers that really don't apply to DC buyers. So you have to adapt to your landscape or wherever you're at when you're doing your project.
What things do you see that matters to a Baltimore buyer versus a DC buyer?
So things like I just said, rooftop decks are important.
Okay.
Yeah. Where you are in the city. Exposed brick is a nice feature.
Let me flip the question, because that's not how I wanted to ask the question. Let me flip the question. What things do you see that matters to the DC buyer versus the Baltimore buyer? That's
gotcha.
The question I was looking for.
So DC, some things that you can't control, some things you can control, like parking, matters to DC buyers. Mm-hmm. Having in-suite bathrooms, having a bathroom in the master suite is very important. And these are things that I'm naming because I learned them the hard way.
Right.
I've done these projects where I didn't offer these things in, and I suffered either on a purchase price or having to sit on the market for longer than I wanted to.
Right.
But Yeah, having a quality product. Modern renovations are kind of big here. The style here is more modern, instead of rustic or industrial. I noticed Baltimore's a little bit more industrial, look, and DC has more of a, on the inside at least, modern look. If you notice in DC, painting a brick house is the thing. Everyone paints a brick house. In Baltimore,
right?
Don't see that often at all. Actually, it's all original.
People get upset in Baltimore. You paint a brick. Like, why would you do that? Like, what would you do? You know what I'm saying? But you go to DC, it's like DC. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it looks like a rainbow. Every house is a different color. And you don't know, a house isn't flipped unless it's been painted. I see people actually paint the house and leave the inside normal. And
are you serious?
They think the values go up just because the house is painted. So.
Wow. And it's funny because of the fact that when I have my DC investors who come to Baltimore, and we have to have certain conversations, right? Yeah. Because they'll come, and I was having a conversation with one DC investor, and he came back with his numbers, and he's like, the kitchen alone is $30,000. I'm like, why would you spend $30,000 on a kitchen in Baltimore? and then I had to explain. I'm like, DC, Baltimore, two different animals.
Yeah, it is.
Because
you have to be very strict on your budget when it comes to Baltimore, because your price is going to pretty much get capped out at a certain point.
Right.
And it's the same way in DC, but DC has a larger margin, bigger margin. So you going over budget $20K in DC isn't as bad as you going over $20K in Baltimore.
Right, because the pricing is different. And what's your average rehab cost in DC?
$100K.
100K,
and that's
on average.
Unless it's a house that was recently remodeled and I can get in there and just do a cosmetic upgrade. But 100 to 140,000 if I'm doing a gut, depending on the size of the house. Like the house you saw off last week, that was under 2,000 square feet. So I was able to get away with that with about 100,000.
And real quick, if you guys are just joining the broadcast, again, this is Agent Cory Banks, Realtor 007. And you're watching Should My Money Be Scared? And today's episode, I am interviewing Vernon Bond, who is a DC rehabber. And we're just discussing some differences between Baltimore and DC. And later on, we're going to discuss the effects of COVID-19 on the DC market and this rehab that we keep discussing that I saw last week. I'm going to actually put up some pictures later on in the broadcast so you guys can take a look and kind of see the differences of what DC is doing. So you're saying the average cost is 100,000, and that the property that we're talking about, that it was right within that budget because it was under 2,000 square feet, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if it was a bigger property, I probably would have spent 140 on it.
Okay. Now, as far as the pandemic, let's get into that part.
Okay.
What effects have you seen the pandemic have on the DC real estate market?
On the DC real estate market. Okay. So I will say a lot of the heavy scale projects, a lot of the conversions, turning single family home to 3 condos, a lot of that has stopped in regards to new. I mean, if you weren't already working on one, you're probably going to finish. But I mean, taking on new projects like that, it slowed down significantly. A lot of lenders aren't funding the big scale projects like they were 3 months ago.
Right.
And I think it's going to change. I think right now we're just in a time of uncertainty, and the banks obviously are pulling back, getting more strict on what they're lending, who they're lending to, just like with all banks.
Right.
In regards to retail, there's still buyers out. Buyers are still buying. Now, I think a lot of buyers that were on the fence or kicking tires, a lot of them are staying home. They're not buying it. They're not even looking.
Right.
Yeah, they're not looking. But people that were buying before are still buying. Like I have buyers still looking. They're just waiting for that right property to hit the market that they love. But in regards to retail, especially first time home buyers, that area of price point is still very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Builders are still building. Investors are still working on their projects. Like, for me, COVID-19 came about 10 weeks ago, maybe 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was halfway into that project. And we still finished.
Right.
Market, and same price we were going to put it on, actually higher than what we were planning on putting on the market.
Oh, wow.
And it was really because that house on the corner sold for $660.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a good guide on what I could price mine for.
And it's real interesting because almost every episode we've spoken about how actually the surprising part of how the market has increased, or because everyone thought, oh, the market is going to tank, but we're still doing deals. And if anything, I have more of my investors calling me now, asking me, I want to see this, I want to see this, and but then at the same time, the crazy part is, well, the banks aren't lending, hard money lenders are pulling that money back, and but it's my cash buyers, my buyers who are using private funds to take down their deals. With the deal that you have, did you use hard money or did you use private funds?
I use hard money, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just amazing, and I'm still shocked by the whole thing.
Yeah.
But now, with that being said, you're in this deal now, right? You see how the market is moving, and there, of course, there's some things ahead. Have you pivoted, or how has your business pivoted, if you've pivoted, because of this?
Oh yeah, definitely. One good thing about my business and my operation, shout out to my business partner, Nicole.
What's up, Nicole?
Yeah, Nicole Watson. She's my right hand. But our business is, pretty much widespread. We cover different things. We don't just invest. We are realtors as well. I own rental properties as well. I also wholesale as well. So, I think wearing multiple hats is perfect in a time like this, because if one thing affects, maybe this affects one area of your business,
right?
You can lean on the other areas of your business that are bringing in money. In regards to the investing or wholesaling, we've pivoted into focusing more on those who are stressed right now. Who right now will be stressing, or who's stressing right now because of COVID-19, and landlords. The reason I know that was because I just recently got over an issue I had with my tenants, and it wasn't COVID-19 related. But
is that the one we talked about last week?
Yeah, I think so. My property, they weren't paying rent, but they weren't paying before COVID-19 hit. They just and they just conveniently, COVID-19 conveniently hit, and then that was their reason why they weren't paying anymore. And it was like, well, you stopped.
We got them now.
But yeah, that was actually stressing me out a little bit. So, imagine landlords that have 10 properties, and I think most people have their tenants paying, but if you had a troubled property before, this might be the tipping point. So, we're targeting landlords, that might be stressed out. And then also, if you ever had, a struggle paying your mortgage before, this might be the tipping point, for you, unfortunately, as well. And if we could help you avoid foreclosure, we definitely want to do that. So we're focusing more on pre-foreclosure. Fortunately, I do have my real estate license, so I think that covers my legal protection to do that. But yeah, pre-foreclosure I think is big, and I think pre-foreclosure is going to be a big thing.
Now, go back real quick, because you just touched on something real quick, and I don't think a lot of people got that, and I want to make sure. Now, you're talking about pre-foreclosure.
Yep.
And then you're talking about the legal ramifications of you having your license.
Yep.
Why is that important?
Because I'm not an attorney, but my attorney has told me that it is a crime to or you cannot I guess, work with people who are in pre-foreclosure, and they're in pre-foreclosure unless you have your real estate license.
Right, which is the PIFA law.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So basically, you can't work directly with somebody that is known to be in pre-foreclosure if you know that to be fact. Because there's I don't know if it's a conflict of interest or what it is, but
is all I know is it is illegal right now.
Exactly. I don't know why.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to know any more than that. So I just, I'm glad that there's a level of protection there. But yeah.
So real quick for the people who don't understand what that means, what's happening is if you are a real estate investor and you don't have your real estate license and you find out that the seller they're in pre-foreclosure and they still live in the property. So let's make that clear. They still live in the property, or they haven't lived in the property. Let's say that I think it was like 3 months. If they're 3 months or less living in the property, I could be wrong about that part, but if it's like 3 months or less of living in the property, or they're still living there and they're in pre-foreclosure, you have to stop talking to them about buying their home, because then now is illegal. However, if they're not living in the home, so let's say if it's a landlord or if it's someone who hasn't lived in a house for a number of months or what have you, and they're in pre-foreclosure, then you're fine. But if it's under that law, you have to consult with the realtor or have them consult with the realtor and negotiate that for you.
Yeah.
That's something that's, when we talk to you already know, we talk to Charles. That's one thing he's drilled in our heads in a many a day.
And I think that's where I learned it from, Charles. Unfortunately, I had my real estate license once I started. I think after I flipped my first house, that's when I got my license. So
okay.
It wasn't something I knew back then, but I fortunately I had my license that whole time. So, but I learned it through Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost every other meetup, he made sure, because it would come up. It came up on a regular basis, and then he told the story of how that law came into play. I don't want to get the story wrong and then have someone come in and sue me. I don't want them kind of problems. I am not an attorney. Now, what about? Well, since we talked about pivoting, and we've talked about the differences of the market and how things have changed because of COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
What's going to be the focus on your business? Are you still going to focus on more rehabs? Are you going to look at some other strategies? What's the focus of your business after this project?
Well, my focus is going to still be on wholesaling. I think wholesaling drives every other aspect of my business.
Definitely.
I focus on, and really the focus on wholesaling is focusing on finding deals.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can find a deal, then you can put it in any, the best place fit. It's not always going to be a wholesale deal. I come across sellers all the time that have a decent house that's not in a shape that needs to be, completely rehabbed. And they also want a premium for the house. So that's when I take off my investor hat and I put on my realtor hat and say, well, look, I could buy this house from you, but I'm going to have to pay 60 cents on the dollar, and it's worth more than that. So I think the best thing for you and for the property is to list it. That comes up. Also, if it's a good wholesale deal, it may be an even better flip. So, I may think twice about wholesaling if I can tackle the property and I'm not already knee deep into a couple other projects. If I get something off the books, then I could take on something else, and it's something I feel comfortable doing, I'll flip it myself and we'll go that route. But focusing on wholesaling is really what our main focus is going to be. And I think it's probably going to be that for a long time.
And like we said before, is definitely great to know different strategies. And if you're talking about wholesaling, one thing I tell people all the time, wholesaling is great to know.
Yeah.
You may be at another level in your business and not most people know wholesaling. I want to wholesale.
Yeah.
But you may be at another level in your business. But if you know wholesaling is like the foundation, I feel like is the foundation because you with wholesaling, you learn how to find off market properties. You'll learn how to negotiate deals. And if you're doing that for your business as a rehabber or for your business as a landlord, then you know now you're getting better deals.
Yep.
And you can always pivot. Like, okay, this deal may not work for me, but I can still make money off of it from doing it like this. But you've also brought up some other strategies, the subject tools. We didn't talk about lease options, and so it's all these different strategies. So it's definitely good to know and employ these strategies.
Yep.
And now, we talked about Nicole, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now I know she's the one that cracks the whip. I know that.
Yeah.
Right? Look, she came up all about business. I'm like, hey, Nicole, what's up? Hey, what's happening? Who's on here? What's on? And I'm like, all right. And mind you, not my first time meeting Nicole, but she came in like she was focused. I got, it's like, I want no trouble. Let's get this done.
I was blessed to run and meet her a year and a half ago, and she matched my energy, which is hard to find in other people. People like us, you and I, like it's hard. It's easy to find people that want to be in the business, but
right,
willing to work is hard to stay in the business and do what it takes. That's few and far between.
So what's the business dynamic between you guys?
Well, I'll tell you, my background came from flipping. My first, the second property I bought my first property was the house I live in, but the second property I bought, I flipped, and most of the houses after that I flipped for the next 3 to 4 years. So my experience came from the flipping renovation, side of the business.
Right.
Nicole has been a realtor for I think 6 years now. So
okay.
She had the retail, side of the business on lock. So
right.
It was kind of like, the two powers meeting, perfect size,
the yin and the yang.
Exactly. She had the retail experience. She knows what buyers want. She has plenty of buyers. She knows how to look through a property through a realtor's eyes. And, I came from the, construction side through the rehabbing and, raising capital, working with the banks, working with contractors, managing the construction, managing your draws, all that stuff. So I already had that experience. She didn't have to learn that the hard way,
right?
Because I brought that experience to the table.
Okay. And since we keep talking about this property, let me see if I can get some. There we go. Wait a minute. There we go. All right. So just tell me a little bit about the property. This is the property in DC that they're rehabbing. Rehabbed.
Yeah. The deal came to me through. Actually, this was a referral, so it didn't come through our marketing strategies. But I don't care where the deal comes from, as long as we tackle it. So this came through a referral through my brother, one of his clients. My brother's in wealth management, and he's a financial advisor and all that. One of his clients had this house, and it was in terrible shape. He lived in LA, and he owned this house, bought this house 10 years ago. He lived in LA, then he moved back here, and the tenants had moved out, and the house was in terrible shape. And he was like, "Man, I can't live in this house." So he, was talking to my brother. My brother told him that, I was in real estate, and I could probably buy the property. So anyways, long story short, came by, took a look at the property, offered him $345. He really wanted like $390. I think I offered him lower than $345. I think we finished at $345. That's what we negotiated to. But got it for $345. It was straightforward, nothing too stressful with this property. Fortunately, it's on a quiet block, so I didn't really have a lot of interference from the neighborhood. The neighbors, for the most part, were cool. The layout was straightforward. Actually, the last flip I did in DC had the same exact layout, same exact square footage. So I knew exactly what to do. I knew how to price things out. Yeah, now I did. The one thing I did struggle with a little bit was working with a whole new crew. Um, 2 years ago, or not a whole new crew, but 80% of a new crew. 2 years ago, I kind of split ways with my old partner, and a lot of the contacts I had, I met through him. So I really didn't even want to do business with a lot of those people anymore. So I had to pretty much rebuild a whole new crew. But it came out very well. I mean,
yeah, definitely
came out very well, and we did convert. The house was a 3-bed, 1-bath when I bought it. We converted it to a 3-bed, 3-bath, and we moved one of the bedrooms to the basement and turned 2 of the bedrooms upstairs into 1 master bedroom.
Danny's friend of mine, Danny, she said that is gorgeous.
Thank you.
So, yes, DC is definitely a different beast. Is how I can say it.
Yeah.
You know, and you have DC investors who come into Baltimore, and I think we would talk about. I said this earlier, but
I'm one of those people.
Oh, yeah.
Came into Baltimore.
Came into Baltimore, and you say, I'm gonna buy because I can buy for 40,000 instead of 150,000, and I'm gonna put in $300,000 on a renovation, and I'm gonna sell it for 1.5, and the houses in the area are selling for 120,000. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Good luck.
I'm exaggerating, of course, but
yeah.
I'm not far from it.
Nah.
You know? And now in Baltimore, right? Baltimore is block by block.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on, for instance, always use the example of 33rd Street. If you're on 33rd Street and you're going towards Lake Montebello in Baltimore, if you're from Baltimore, you know what I'm talking about. And on the right side, the houses will start at about, let's say, $70,000 to $80,000, and as you go down towards City College, the values get lower. On the opposite side of 33rd Street, when you get to the row homes, you're looking at maybe 150 to 170. The highest I saw was maybe 190, 196, right? And that's with very close proximity. So you have to be very careful when you're in Baltimore and when you're looking at your ARVs.
Yeah.
How is it the same way in DC, or how is it in DC when you're looking at your numbers?
So it's not the same in DC like it is in Baltimore. The prices do drastically change depending on what zip code you're in. But you know, it's not going to change drastically, you know, in regards to being under 200,000 or anything like that. So,
right.
Give an example, like Southeast DC, 20019 zip code.
Wait a minute, I got to do it. You know, I have to do it. You said it.
What's that?
Southeast. South.
Yeah, man. Southeast is on fire though, man. Southeast is on fire. You know, when I was growing up, nobody wanted to be there, but now, you know, everybody's trying to get in the Southeast because it's part of the city where it's like the most affordable part of the city now. You know,
what did I say last week? Anytime a neighborhood has its own song or is being shouted out in the song,
yeah,
normally that's not a place you want to be.
Nah.
But continue about Southeast.
Like Anacostia, growing up, rough, Berry Farms, rough, all that. You know, Marshall Heights, man. Yeah, but now, you know, those areas houses are selling for 400,000. You know, this house, the house you just showed in Southeast, will be 400,000. Maybe a little bit more than 400,000. Probably about 420, 430. But in Northeast, that house is 600,000.
Right.
In Northwest, that house will be 800,000.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's the difference. Once you start crossing over the water in DC, whether you're on the east side or whether you're on the west side, but Northwest, typically the values are much higher in Northwest. Northeast are getting there. They're not there yet in regards to Northwest.
Right.
Southeast is probably the only affordable part of DC that exists right now.
And there are some areas in Baltimore where, I mean, not quite there, but the prices do change drastically. Or if you're in that particular area, like if you're in the Canton,
Yeah,
uh, Bolton Hill,
yeah.
Reservoir Hills, that's getting kind of crazy.
Okay.
The prices still kind of fluctuate there, but I've seen houses sell close to $1 million in Reservoir Hill.
Yeah,
Like but the main makeup of Baltimore is that whole block by block, you
yeah.
know, and UDC investors come in and you come in with your chest poked out and spending all the money, and
And we
then
run what I tell between our legs.
what you say?
I said we run out what I tell between our legs.
Exactly. I'm like, I tried to tell you, and then,
Yeah,
but you know what? It's a catch 22 at the same time. I have this conversation with a lot of my investors a lot. Is a catch 22 because where some of these out of town investors are driving up the prices because of what they're doing, and shoot, honestly, I can name at least three local investors who no four local investors who are doing DC type of rehabs
uh-huh.
and drive and they're getting the money.
Wow. Well, good for
Hey, hey, look, I might have to have a whole episode and talk to them. They may not give me their secrets though.
you.
I might have to find a way to get their secrets.
Yeah, they know something.
Yeah, yeah. Having the designers and different things like that. Definitely.
Yeah.
So we talked about your recent transaction, and we talked about what's next. Are you doing anything in Baltimore, or are you mainly staying in DC with your
Yeah.
business?
I have actually have a rental property in Baltimore, the one I was just talking about. The one
Right.
I was able to get the tenants out. The property has been a headache, and to be honest with you, I don't know what's going on with that area of the city, but
Which area?
Holland's Market.
Okay.
But the city has because I have 3 houses in Baltimore, and that's the only property that I get harassed by the city. Uh, the water bill is like 3 times the price.
Well,
Um,
let, let me just say this to you, Vernon.
what's
Since
up?
you're from DC, and maybe no one have said it to you before, and you're saying you don't know why, what I'm gonna say to you is welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to Baltimore.
Man. But I get fines from the city for random stuff or bill, not even just fines, but bills from the city on that property. And I'm like, man, what is going on here? Like, I don't get this from the other properties. But anyways, that property I'm actually going to renovate it and sell it because since I bought it, the value's gone up. So
Okay.
and
That's a good thing.
yeah, definitely. And the neighborhood, I was just there last week, and the neighborhood's pretty stable. And I'm like, well, let me go ahead and just cash out on that property and put that money into real estate, to something else.
and and don't quote me because I'm not. I haven't done a lot of business in that area here lately. But I want to say close to that area. Probably the reason why the value is going up is you're also dealing with let's say University of
Yeah,
Maryland,
yeah.
and they're doing something similar to what Johns Hopkins did on the east side. They're doing something similar on the west side, so that could be the reason why
Oh yeah.
why your values. Yeah.
You can tell from when I bought the house almost 4 years ago. When I drove through it at the time, and then drive through it now, you could definitely see it's changed. A lot of development going on. Buildings popped up out of nowhere. Yeah, so I mean, the neighborhood, the area, that whole area has changed, dramatically since I bought it. I know it's changed definitely dramatically since before.
Right.
So I want to cash in on that property and take that money and put it into something else in real estate. Yeah.
I always make the joke. I'm like when you see people out walking, jogging, and walking their dogs.
Yeah, that's the sign. Well, that's what DC was like.
Right.
Probably about 15 years ago, you ain't see nobody outside jogging. They was probably running from somebody, but it wasn't jogging.
There's a difference between jog. You know a run when you see a run.
Yeah.
A run.
Yeah.
Jogging. Don't have a care in the world.
Yeah,
Got the
nah,
dog right here.
yeah,
Got your pooper scooper or your bag or whatever. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Whole
exactly.
different feel. You know, but I appreciate it. We're coming close to that time. So man, I appreciate it. Congratulations
Oh, man,
to
appreciate
you and Nicole.
Thank
Um, Tell Nicole, stop being so hard on you.
you. She is softy at heart, though.
Like that's normally the case. It's
Yeah.
like it is like I was watching The Last Dance,
Uh-huh.
right? And I think a lot of people have Jordan misunderstood, man.
Yeah.
When you talk about that level of greatness, when you're about your business and you're on the court
Yeah.
or whatever your battlefield is, it's like, look, we ain't got time to play. We're coming to be the best. So that
Exactly.
means you have a certain demeanor.
Yep.
But off the court, you know, it, off the court, I saw it's like somebody said, off the court, he was a nice guy. He
Yeah.
laughed, joke, and whatever. If he likes you, he likes you.
Yeah.
So Nicole is cool with me.
Yep.
But once again, thank you.
No, I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate you. Nah, man, thank you. And continue success. And you already know if you need something from me, let me know. We gotta talk about some things later anyway.
Okay.
So, how if someone needs to get in contact with you in DC and tell them how to get in contact with you.
Well, you can contact me pretty much any way. You can shoot me a text on my cell phone, 202-740-8031. You can shoot me an email. My email is vernon.bond3@gmail. Facebook, Vernon Bond on Facebook. And my Instagram is nothing was handed with the underscore in between each word. So those are the best ways to reach me. I'm here to help. I didn't like I told you, I didn't really have any guidance growing when I first started. So, if I can help somebody get to a spot a lot quicker than I did, then I'm here to do that. So, um,
And let's break this down real quick because you are Vernon Bond,
yep.
right? And I am Agent Cory Banks.
Say something to you about that because I grew up. People used to joke about calling me James Bond 007 when I was a kid, and I saw that on your name, Agent.
That's right. I'm Agent Cory Banks, real to 007.
Hey man, it's all good. You branded it. So I can't even do it now.
Look. Have you seen the logo?
I seen the logo, man.
See, look. I took it and ran with it. I'm done.
Yeah, you did. You can have it, man. You can have it. I got burnt out when I was a kid. All the jokes about it. So
look, I'm gonna tell you, mine actually came from it was when Agent Cody Banks came out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I used to get a lot of jokes because of that.
I got you. And
I'm like, and really, Cody is CODY. I'm CORY. Yeah. And I used to get joked. And what happened? This whole Agent Cory Banks thing is actually a fluke. I was looking for. I said I need an email address. I'm like, hey, all right, Agent Cory Banks at Gmail. Right? Yeah. It was just like that. It was like no thought into it.
Yeah.
And then people kept saying, I like their email address. I like their email address. And then I will go into the office and they just start calling me. I'm like, yes, I'm Cory Banks. And someone would say, no, yeah, Agent Cory Banks. And and I'm like, it's something to this. Let me build that out. And
there you go, man. Hey, that's what's up.
But if you guys are trying to get in contact with me, you can follow me on IG, Agent Cory Banks 007. Or if you have any questions, you want to get in contact with Vernon or any other guest that's been on the show, just email me at agentcorybanks@gmail.com. And for any past shows that you've missed, go to Agent Cory Banks on YouTube and check those out. And with that being said, my friend Vernon, once again, I appreciate you.
No problem.
You guys have a good day.
Real quick, if you don't mind, I forgot, go to our YouTube channel as well, REI Game Changers on YouTube. That's where I drop videos on pretty much everything I do. We do vlogs on our normal daily day, just to see what we do. So you can get an inside look on everything we do throughout the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually I might be on location on Friday, doing the show. with the rehab, talk about private money and things like that. So I'm working that out. But let's talk soon. And to everyone who's watching, have a great day. Happy Wednesday. And I'll see you guys later.
Cool. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right.